What's up, y'all? So we doing another quick little digital journal. Some new information I found out. I talked with a hiring manager today, so we'll talk about that. But one thing I noticed, the old guard, a lot of them think they still have a lot of control. Something that I just observed about maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. I took the express bus home because that it's easy. I can just sit there and just kind of listen to my stuff. So I took the express bus home. And I noticed it's always some Jabba the Hutt built, dehydrated wig mammy that's always doing some hating on like a young sister. You know what I'm saying? That this young sister, she's driving this big ass express bus, big, long, elongated bus. And when she gets to Rice and she gets on the transfer area, I guess she didn't turn in enough because that little there's a spot where you could do a parker ride right there, and she didn't turn in enough to be able to kind of go around to the other side to drop the folks off. So she was gonna have to back up or whatever. And Jabba the Hutt with the dehydrated wig, oh, she don't even know how to drive this bus. She don't know how to do this. She's this, that, and the third, and everything. Ain't nobody else saying that. Now, when she sit there and talk, she always talking to some old white lady kissing her ass and all that. So you could tell she's one of them. You could tell she's one of those big, sloppy, over her retirement. You could tell that. Because usually, here's the thing: when a woman in her 40s or whatever, it's time. When they get to around their 40s or whatever, they ain't really trying to work no more. You could tell she's one of these old, Crisco fried wig mammies. She's like a plantation mammy. She hates going to work every day. You see what I'm saying? She hates going to work every day. So the sister, and I look at the sister look real young. She looked like she's maybe 25. A little on the chunkier side, real nice personality. This lady, I'm telling you, she got one of those, pork dumpling, not chicken dumpling, one of them pork dumpling fried rice. She one of those pork dumpling fried rice mammies that be hating on the young girls. Now, this girl's just starting off with their career. They knocking you down coming through. You hopping in that bus making 30 something an hour off the rip. Her big wide tumbling ass has to get up and go to work. You supposed to have hung it up at that time. It's retirement time. Your husband's supposed to have take the reign. She's probably divorced. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of tell how some of these folks be acting and stuff like that. Like, okay, you're, this an old plantation mammy. You can tell you can just tell. This an old mammy. She was looking at me kind of weird one day. I'm like, yeah, she's one of them old plantation mammy. Probably sitting up at the church pew, voting for Joe Biden, one of them kind of niggas. I don't know, but anyway. So I learned some pretty good jewels when I was talking to the hiring manager. Now, I told y'all before, network, the sister was recommending, in this environment, you got to do a lot of networking. Like specifically, like this environment, you got to, everybody will just fall through the cracks. So, I reached out. I finally got in touch with one of the hiring managers for a lot of the application things, for the applications. And so this is the information that I got. I wrote a lot of stuff down. So I started talking about, certain things on my resume. We barely talked about that. That's how it's the environment about what you really know. So he said, you got a great resume. Your skill set matches everything we need. Like, we use Salesforce, Jira, Snow, APIs, all of that kind of stuff. These are the kind of things that I would be looking for. But now, he said, what you want to do, and I'm going to tell y'all the same thing, especially if you're switching a position or something like that. Focus on the metrics, service level agreement, KPIs, how did you save money, reduce costs, and add value, especially when you're working in the financial or the banking arena. And he said, I'm going to send you my resume. Most hiring managers don't do that. He sent me my resume, his resume, and he told me, listen, I'm going to hook you up with other application managers that's hiring managers. And I mentioned somebody that I knew that he just got hired in that space. And he said, yeah, that person's cool or whatever. He said, but the thing is, he said, look, everybody, he said, I just networked with, he said, I knew a couple of friends that got hired in all these different places. He said, in the last 12 months, he said, every single last one of my friends, they didn't give a damn about the resume. All his old business contacts, they said it had nothing absolutely to do with the resume. He said, and what you should do is you reach out to the hiring manager and you set up a conversation. He said, if you're already in the environment, because when you're outside the environment, you're not going to be able to do that. The only way you could do that is through somebody that's in there, or if it's somebody like a recruiter. If you're outside, because you're trying to get in the door. But if you're already in the door, he said, what you could do, you directly, he said, just ping the hiring manager. Once you find out who they are, reach out to them and ask them, can you sit down and talk about the role? So they get a face. He said they're not going to really care about the resume like that. He said, everybody I know that got hired, it was strictly on who they knew. And that is 100% it. That's all. So I told him, I said, I've been kind of moving and shaking and talking with people. He said, yeah, you keep doing that, especially if you get to them top floors and stuff like that. He said, you do that. This isn't something that I've had to do before. So this is something that I'm doing. This is something that it's kind of new to me because I never really had to do a lot of that. My qualifications, the skill set always spoke for myself, but I'm in a different environment. I'm in a different yard, quote unquote. So you got to talk to the guards. You got to talk to the warden. You dig? So another thing he said, if that manager you reach out to you is a little standoffish and don't want to meet with you, he said, that ain't nobody you really want to work for. Another thing he talked about was the remote stuff. He said, I work on the weekends all the time and I work extra hours all the time. He said, I'm not going to break my neck, keep coming to the office. He said, if y'all want me to come to the office throughout the week, I'm not taking no calls past 4:00. I ain't doing nothing. And there's a lot of critical issues because they're critical applications. I'm not going to say what the application is, but there's some critical applications that have to be resolved. So, no, just giving me some quick game, man. Giving it to y'all. So, we were talking about how there's a lot of people, man, they really, really pushing back. I talked to another software engineer today, man. Folks is mad about this remote stuff. Because, I talked to a lady today that I did some deployment to. She told me, she said, man, she was in Ohio. She said, man, I have no desire to come back to the office and drive 20 miles into Cincinnati. She was in some suburb that's 25 minutes away from Cincinnati. She said, I have no desire to do so. She said, I had to, it's wear and tear on my car and it's all this and it gets a bunch of mess. They don't want to do it. So it's going to be a big blowback too. Now, if you notice something, you have this government shutdown and you have all these companies that are forcing people back in at the same time. I find that to be very interesting. Not sure if there's a connection at all. But the way that they're doing this, it was something that the manager correlated to. And I said, man, I think the way that they're pushing this back in, it was something else that was going on as well. But we'll see how it goes or whatever like that, man. But like I said, because you physically need to do something, that makes a value in this time in terms of AI breaking stuff. They just let go of about 700 people at Target. Now it's 1,000. You see what I'm saying? Those jobs, they probably didn't need nobody to actually physically do something. That's probably what those jobs were. I'm going to try to find out what it was and try to find out some inside story, and I'm going to holler at y'all.